we're going to be looking through the process of making a printed t-shirt from start to finish using the TrueVIS SG300. Hopefully you can all see the screen okay. What we're going to do is have a quick look at creating a design. So if you have any questions about that part of the process, I'm going to be using Adobe Illustrator for the design part. Then we're going to have a look at setting up the machine ready to print, so putting the material into the machine, any options that you may have to do before you actually send the print. Then we're going to jump into our RIP, VersaWorks Dual, just to have a look at setting up the file ready to print, so how you set it up within the RIP to send it to the printer. Then we'll have a quick look at the machine printing. Then we'll take a look at what you do with the printed output, so prepping the output ready to be pressed onto the garment. And then actually doing the heat pressing. So I should anticipate this is going to take about half an hour, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, depending on how we get on. And as I said, questions and answers at the end. So feel free to ping them as we're going along, or save them till the end. This webinar will be recorded, but we don't actually have somewhere to put them at the moment, so we're working on that. But there will be a place where you'll be able to watch these down the line. At the end, I'll also give you my contact details in case you have any questions afterwards, or if you need any more information down the line. So let's just jump over to the video here. So what we're going to do is watch this video which talks us through the process. And whilst we're going through it, I'm just going to explain things that are happening. And as I said, just pop your hand up in the chat window there if you need to ask any questions. I can also mark certain questions which we can then take a look at the end as well. So there we go. So first of all, we'll be taking a look at the design part of creating a garment. When we're talking about creating a garment, it can be any garment. It doesn't have to be a t-shirt, it doesn't have to be a hoodie, anything like that. It can be sort of any fabric, by the way. So where we're talking about heat transfer, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm talking about, you know, t-shirts and anything like that. So it could be, you know, tote bags, it could be materials, it could be purses, it could be all sorts. It could be baseball caps, shoes. There's all sorts of things that you can heat transfer onto. And the SG is kind of a perfect machine for doing so, as it's reasonably small in print area. So if this is your main application, you're not going to need to invest in a huge machine. There is one smaller machine, the BN20 as well, which is another great machine for doing this kind of work. But both of them will tackle all sorts of other work as well. So all your sort of signage and graphic applications, as well as doing the heat transfer. So the design part of it, just going to jump into Illustrator here to show you. So we need to create a new document to start with. Hopefully you can all see the screen okay at the moment. And to start with, in the home screen of Illustrator, when we're creating the document, you just need to specify the size of your artboard, your workspace, and then you can give the file a name as well. So we're going to be creating a surf design today, and I've created the width at 220 millimeters and the height at 300. In the advanced options, you can also choose the base color mode for the document. So I've chosen CMYK for this document. So as you can see, the artboard's at the right size. And this is the design that we're going to be using. So a picture of a surfer on a wave. So I'm just going to copy that from one document and paste it into my new document. So copy from one document and go back into the document which has the artboard at the roughly the right size for what I want my t-shirt to be, and then just scale it down a tiny bit. Oh, here we go. Sorry, just a little quote there saying somebody saying their picture has a circle around the middle. Can't see Illustrator. I've got no video. Okay, bear with me a moment. Just a minute. How about now? Hopefully you guys can see now. There we go, perfect. Okay, let's just jump back and restart that bit then. Hold on a moment. Sorry about that. Click the wrong button. So as I said, start off by jumping into Illustrator. when you're setting up your document, you need to specify the width and the height of your artboard. You can always change this later, but we're just setting it up as a default to start with. And at the top, you can also specify the name. And down the bottom in the advanced options, you can choose the sort of base color mode for your document. Now I've gone for CMYK and high resolution. And that will create the document. Oh, sorry, more comments saying you can't see. Give us a moment. Sorry guys, bear with us a moment. It looks like it should all be working fine on my end, but it looks like it's not sharing with you guys. Just hold on a minute. All right, let me try something else then. I'll tell you, we'll try and load the video directly then instead. That way. How about now, guys? Are you able to see? You should be able to see a black screen and the Illustrator page now. See if we can try it this way. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. You know what happened there? For some reason, it's not liking the video sharing option. So I'm just going to load the video on my screen and share my screen with you instead. There might be a little bit of lag because I'm doing it this way. It would have been a bit quicker doing it the other way, but for some reason it wasn't loading. So we'll work it this way instead, which should work as well. Okay, can you guys see the cursor moving on the screen there? You should be able to see. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So we're just setting the size of the workspace for the video. And here we go. This is the design. So we've got this sort of surf design that we're just going to copy from one document into the new document. So jumping over into the old document, selecting all the information, and we're going to bring this by copying and pasting into the new artboard, which is roughly the right size of the t-shirt. So copy and jump into the new design, and then you can either just paste, which means it places it anywhere, or you can paste in place, which means it puts it where it was in the old document, which is quite a useful tool. And then we're just going to scale by holding the shift key in order to keep the aspect ratio of the design. So that's roughly the design. You can see in the workspace, we've kind of got different tools open, but I've jumped over to the text tool here to add some type. So we're going for a sort of summer surf vibe, summer surf school. So we're just going to make some text and then place that somewhere into the design. Just to show that you can have photographs, you can have text, you can have whatever you want. So we're just adding a bit of information here. And just going to choose a different font to go with that as well. So one down the bottom there, it looks a little bit more, I guess, surfery. And again, just scaling that by holding the shift key, or you can use the toolbar along the top to edit your text as well. And just going to change the placement of the text so it looks a little bit more interesting. and move that into place. As I said, you can place photographs, you can put cut lines around photographs and things as well. Any kind of design that you want. And here we're just going to put the text and then change the color of the text maybe. Yeah, we'll look at dark blue to match the rest of the design. And then create outlines, which means you're converting the text from being a sort of editable text item to being just as shapes. Now here we're going to offset the text so that you can see in the background on the surfer design there is sort of like a light blue outline around everything. So we're just going to put that behind the text as well, just to sort of bring the whole design together. So just offset the path there, and then send the new offset behind the text, and then we're going to change the color as well. I just need to ungroup those and then change the color to the same color as the background by using the eyedropper tool. There we go. So now you can see it all kind of sort of ties it in together. Now, as that was a separate element, we're just going to put it back onto the back layer here by sending it to the back using the arrange tool, and then going to merge it with the other shape to create one single shape sat behind all the graphic sort of data, if you will. So using the pathfinder tool, just to merge that together. Now that we've got a complete sort of outline shape, we'll be able to use that as a cut line. So we're just going to change the artboard size first. You can see that we've kind of gone a bit off piste with the sizing here, but it doesn't really matter. It should still fit okay. So just going to tweak the artboard sizes. As soon as you're happy, go back to the select tool and then change the scale a tiny bit as well. There we go. Now it's always good to work in layers. So here what we're doing is just renaming the layer. So I always tend to work in sort of a print layer and a cut layer or any special information. So we do have machines that can print white, metallic, gloss inks, that kind of thing. So we're just creating a bottom base layer called color here, and then we're going to select the outline shape there, which is we're going to use that, or a version of that, to become our cut line. So then we just created a new layer, new layer tab on the right hand side there. And we're going to turn off the bottom layer so that we don't make any changes to that, and then paste in place the shape that was the sort of background of the previous graphic. Turn off the fill and just create a stroke, and then you can see we've got our Roland VersaWorks swatch palette up on the top there. So that is installed whenever you install VersaWorks, and it's within the program files of VersaWorks. So if you should want to send that to somebody or open your own VersaWorks swatch palette, you've got the cut, contour, white, gloss, metallic, and primer as the options in there. So for all of the different machines that we have, or you can create your own spot color. So if you want to create your own spot color, just open up your own custom palette and create a new spot color, and you need to call it cut contour with no spaces and capital C's, or cut path, no spaces, capital C and capital P, and make sure that it's a spot color, and that's it. That will work as a cut line. So we've just assigned the cut contour there to the outline of this graphic, and then just change the sort of stroke weight from being 1 point to 0.25. Okay, not a necessity, but some sort of best practice to keep it nice and thin. Now that's on a separate layer to the color, so we can just turn on, just going to change the name to cut first so that it's really nice and visible what graphic data is on what, and then turn on the layer underneath. So now we've got a cut line around our graphic, and we've got the data underneath. Okay, so we'll save that. We're going to save this as a PDF. PDF saves the artboard size, whereas EPS saves the sort of whole file space. So we're just going to save it as a PDF. And what we'll do next is jump over to the machine setup. So as you can see, just saving that as a PDF, surf design with cut. Sticking that on my desktop, so we can jump over to the printer. And the settings for saving it as a PDF there, we just changed that to high quality print. This is just sort of best practice if you are going to be using a printer. The default settings within Illustrator for exporting a PDF do not take color profiles from embedded images. Sorry, linked images. There are no linked images in this design, but it's just good practice to know that if you want to maintain a lot more color information, you can choose the high quality print option there. And then save the PDF. So next we're going to jump over to the machine setup. So here you can see the back of the SG, just popping the media on there. So we've got some heat transfer film, and then just making sure that the media supports are nice and tight within the roll, so that the roll is sitting perfectly, and then adjusting the roll to the pinch wheel location on the machine. Try not to handle the middle of the roll too much. Just feeding that through to the front of the machine, and just make sure that everything's nice and aligned from the back. You don't get telescoping of the roll. Now going round to the front of the machine here, we just need to check that the alignment's okay of the roll. So pulling in the middle of the roll will help to make sure that there's no twist in the roll, that it's nice and taut within the machine. And then just moving the pinch wheels about 5 to 10 mil from the edge of the material. The pinch wheels actually determine the printable area, so they are near to the edge, but not right on the edge of the material there. Once those are in place, we can put in the media clamps. These just hold down the edge of the material should you get any lifting material. And they sit just about half on and half off the material. There we are. So once it's all straight, you're happy with it, you can close the lid and pop down the load lever and then press enter on your machine. Now once you press that enter on the machine there, it's just going to scan the width of the machine and check the size of the material. And as you can see here, we've actually got quite a lot of material hanging out the front, so just held down the back arrow on the menu panel, which is just going to wind that material back so we don't waste it, and then reset the base point using the menu as well. Is everybody all okay still? All okay? You guys can all hear everything okay? Let's checking in after the little mistake earlier. Brilliant, okay. So here we go, just going into the menu panel. And what we're going to do here, I'll just set the base point, is we're going to start by doing a test print on the machine. So we're going into the cleaning menu and going to go to test print. And this is just going to sort of fire all of the nozzles within the machine just to check that everything's printing okay. So good practice just to check before you sort of start printing for the day that you know that your machine's going to be printing all happy. Now, hear you there, Simon, but you'll get there. So here we go. The printer's just going to come out and fire all of the nozzles. Now this machine is a CMYK device, so you'll see 4 channels. Depending on what machine you have, some of the devices have got 8 channels or 8 inks, so you might see more inks. It's just doing 2 passes of the nozzle check there. And then we want to check it and check that all the lines are all next to each other, all firing okay. If there's any lines missing, then you may have to do further maintenance or cleaning in order to get your machine up to speed. But just taking a look here, everything looks fine. All the nozzles are firing okay. We're okay. So print-wise, we're good to start printing. Last test though, we're just going to do a cut test. So go into the cut configuration and do a test cut. Just check the force first. And then doing a test cut, it'll cut out a little circle with a little square, and you want to try and peel away the circle. Once you peel away the circle, the square should stay in place, which means that you've cut all the way through the material. This has actually got a clear backing sheet, hence why you can see the machine through the back there. So the cut pressures are all good as well. So next we're going to jump over into VersaWorks or VersaWorks Dual, the RIP, and load the file. So first of all, load add job to QA. Going to look for our job. Mine was on my desktop, so just load the job there. EPS, PDF, JPEG, all sorts of different supported file formats. So open the job. It's going to come into the queue, and then from the queue, we're going to go down into the settings and just open up the job. Notice that there's that little blue A which shows that there's a cut line within the file. And the first thing you do when you jump into VersaWorks is hit Get Media Width, which means that it's going to read the printable area of the material that you've got inside the machine. So you hit that, and then just the display will adjust in the preview there, just to suit the right size of your material. So we're actually going to try and get two of these designs next to each other. So I'm just going to crop out some of the blank space from my PDF there by going to the clip and tile tab, just so we don't waste any space. And then I'm going to go down to number of copies and try and get two copies next to each other. So just taking away the tile space in there, making that 0. Now it looks like the width is 460 and the image is 238. So might just have to change the scale a tiny bit if we want to get two of them next to each other on the material there. So yeah, just nudge that down. And there's a refresh icon on the top right, which just sort of realigns things. So looks like, yeah, just going to change that to 230 and then refresh. There we go. So we can fit two next to each other on the material. Just going to rotate that as well. Doesn't really make any difference, but means it's going to come out the machine the right way up. Then next you need to jump, after you're happy with all the layout, jump into the quality tab. And in the quality tab, at the top there, you can choose your media type. This is what's called a profile. So you just need to choose the profile for whatever you're printing onto. On this new install of the machine, we just got 4 profiles there, but you can add more by going to the Roland Profile Center. That's center with a T-R-E-R at the end. American spelling, RolandProfileCenter.com, where you can have a look and choose your machine setup and see about downloading more profiles as well. So we're just going to choose the generic heat transfer setting here, as we're going to be printing onto a heat transfer material. And standard quality, it's going to take 3 minutes to print those. That should be fine. Okay, color management. Without going into too much depth for this, you've got lots of different options that you can choose down the bottom here, depending on whether you're printing vector or raster information, photographs or logos, and the kind of, if there's any profiles and things embedded with the images. So we're just going to go to max impact for this one, just to make it as nice and bright as punchy as possible. So the color wasn't too important. It's got no corporate colors in it or anything, so we just want nice bright colors. Now we're going to jump down a bit further in the tabs here to the printer controls and just check our sort of feed calibration and heater controls, and just tell VersaWorks where to get those settings. And then finally into the cut controls. Because we're doing a print and cut job, you can see the red dotted line in the preview that's showing the cut line. And we're going to actually select cut the image boundaries, which is going to put a box around each of our prints. That just makes it a little bit easier when it comes to weeding. So not something you have to do, but you can select that directly in the rip there. And that's actually all the settings that we need to change. So we're going to jump out of here, back into the main screen, and once we're happy, we can just click on print. Once you've clicked on print, it will jump up into the rip queue, so it'll start ripping, and as soon as it's finished ripping, then it'll send the information to the machine ready to print. So next stage, it's going to jump over to the machine to see it printing. So just heating up there. Once it's finished heating, you see it will start printing. So it just has to receive the information, and there we go. Job printing. So what I might do is just speed this up a little bit. Now it's going to take 3 minutes. Don't need to watch it for 3 minutes. There we go. Coming to the end of the job there. And depending on the material that you're using, you might get a slightly different finish, whether it was sort of gloss material or matte material or satin, or you can even get sort of weird, funky, glitters and all sorts that you might be using. So you can see there's a nice solid fill using the TrueVIS inks there onto this material. And as soon as it's finished printing, you'll see the little cutting carriage will come out, and the machine will cut around the design as well. So the beauty of having the print and cut device, having this all built into one nice handy device, makes it nice and easy. And it's just super quick. You guys don't have to do anything. Once you set up the information, you just send that to the machine and it will take care of the rest. There we go. It's just going to do all the cutting out for us. And depending on your device, there's slightly different sort of cutting speeds. But generic, most of the time the devices are going to cut at sort of 30 centimeters per second. And they also have the up speed of 30 centimeters per second. So they're pretty quick. But also nice and accurate. Go around the contour there, and then it will hop over to the other one. And then once it's finished doing the cutting, we're actually finished with the machine part. So what we need to do after that is we'll just take out the media clamps, the bits that are holding down the edge of the material, and we'll do a sheet cut. So that's just going to chop off the material so we can then take the two designs over to prepare these, to get ready to be pressed. A little comment in the chat there saying very satisfying. It's just funny how mesmerizing it can be to watch a machine cutting, isn't it? Especially on the big long sweeping cuts, but maybe that's just a geek in me. So there we go, it's finished cutting. So just wait for the material to feed forward and then just take off the media clamps to do a sheet cut. There we are. Right, so jumping over to the prep area next. Right, we just need to weed away the background of the material here. So the bits that aren't going to be pressed, that's why we had the contour cut. So just peeling up the sort of background there. This bit's called weeding. So you can get little tools that help you to sort of pick up the edges, which is quite useful. And you can see we've got some white spots in the middle of this design as well. So I'm just going to get rid of those. You can do as many designs as you want in one go. You can see we've done 2 copies of the same design, but this could be 20 copies of all different designs as well. There's no need for it to just be one. So let's weed the other one as well. And then what we're going to need to do next is apply some application tape, some heat transfer application tape. So it's a special kind of tape that can go in the heat press afterwards to take this graphic off of its backing sheet so it can then be stuck onto whatever it is that you're going to be pressing onto. So the tape that we're going to be using is a clear tape, and you just use a squeegee to apply that so that it just holds the whole design together as you transfer it onto the garment. So just finishing up with the weed in here. And getting our little piece of application tape. As I said, you can just sort of apply this with a squeegee. And then give it a good rub down to make sure that all the different parts of the design stick properly. You actually find it a little bit easier to sort of turn it over to take the rest of the design off to make sure that it's stuck. There we go, and then we've got our design ready to be transferred onto our garment. So we're actually going to press this onto a black t-shirt. So you're going to grab the black t-shirt and take that over to the heat press. I don't know if you saw there actually, but this heat press was set at 150 degrees for 15 seconds. That's the recommendation from the material that we're using. That can vary slightly depending on what material you're using. So some of them might be slightly hotter and slightly longer press, some of them might be shorter. So I'm just going to get the t-shirt placed onto the bed of the heat press. And what I like to do then is just give it a quick iron. So just press the press down a tiny bit just to flatten the t-shirt so you don't get any crinkles whilst you're laying down your print. So just get everything nice and lined up. There we go, give it a quick iron, just a couple of seconds with the press there. And then we'll grab our graphic and we're going to place that onto the t-shirt. So you may have your own sort of way of doing this, of aligning your print. So you may have some sort of template that you use in order to make sure that it's square. This is obviously a round design, so it's not sort of the end of the world if it wasn't quite square. So I'm just going to place that somewhere near the top, a little bit down from the collar, so that it doesn't sit too high. And then just put on some protective heat application paper as well. And then pull the press and we go. So 15 seconds. This is actually a self-releasing press. So once it's finished, the arm will pop up and it will be ready to go. And different materials have slightly different release mechanisms. So once this comes out, you can either have to wait, sometimes you have to wait for the material to cool down before you can peel off the sheet. This material is actually a hot release. So what that means is once we take it off, we're ready to go. So we just peel off that application tape now. Be careful, it'll be nice and hot. And that's it. That's the design finished. So there you go. Heat transfer onto a nice black t-shirt. And then just for laughs, there's me and my surfboard. So there's my t-shirt. There's my surfboard. Ready to go to the beach.